hope that you can hear me. Today I'm going to talk about a very nice book. This is the book. It's called Endurance, Shackleton's Incredible Voyage by Alfred Lansing. So this is a very nice book. I actually enjoyed reading it quite a lot, and it's a good life story. So this is actually the Romanian version, so I'm gonna try to do my best in translating it into English while I try to explain it to you. So yes, so what's this book all about? This book is about a very nice, I have like no words. It's about Ernest Shackleton that bought himself a ship called Endurance and wanted to make an expedition to go to Antarctica. This expedition failed, and not only that the expedition failed, their story of surviving, being trapped in the harsh environment from the Antarctic, it's quite challenging. So on the back it says a bit of a story. In August 1914, Ernest Shackleton went to his ship Endurance to Antarctica. He wanted to cross the white continent, Antarctica, the last great challenge of terrestrial exploring. So in January 1915, so practically they started in 1914, and 1 year later, after hundreds of kilometers, the ship is trapped in an ice island. So their ship is getting trapped, so they have to abandon their ship and they have to survive. So practically this book is about a failed expedition, but in the same time I think it was no longer important that the expedition failed. It was more important for Shackleton to save his crew and to manage to get safely home. So I was impressed by this book just because I was impressed by the determination and by the power of this man. I mean, the thing that they describe in this book, they had to eat like very small rations of food. We're going to read from the journals of the people trapped there. They had to leave a lot of things behind. They had to sacrifice their dogs. Horrible. So let's begin. So practically this expedition made Shackleton one of the biggest leaders of the sea. Practically his leadership skills, that's why this book is so popular. It's popular just because Shackleton proved to be an absolute leader. Like to cross Antarctica, to lose your ship, to be forced to cross the ice in some saving boats, to maintain your crew. A lot of people would have, like, I don't know, give in and give up and died, but he, like, not one single man from this expedition died, not even one. Amazing. So So yes, actually this book wasn't very successful at the beginning. Actually, in 1986, only after 10 years after the author, Alfred Lansing, died. Hello! Hello! Yes, as I promised, this is the book. So this is the Romanian version. It's not the English one, so it's a bit of a challenge to translate it from Romanian to English, but it's going quite well. So I was saying that this book is about the expedition of Ernest Shackleton in his attempt to conquer the Antarctica, and his expedition failed, and he had to abandon the ship and to save his crew while being stranded in the Antarctic Sea. So yeah, so this book, as I was saying, this book actually was successful after the author died. 10 years after the death of the author, people discovered, oh, this book is quite interesting. I think this is quite a common thing in the creative environment, creators being known and appreciated after they die. Okay, so in the first pages of this book, the author describes how actually the author contacted all the members of the crew and wanted to get material for his book. So he got lucky with the crew that the crew maintained diaries, photos. The expedition had a photographer in 1914. Exceptional photos. I will show them to you. So it was a lot of documenting things. So yeah. So this is quite a map of the expedition. So actually, this is the place where Endurance, the ship, got crashed. So this is the place where they had to abandon their ship, and they used their lifeboats to go even further on Elephant Island. So on Elephant Island, Shackleton left his crew there on the island, and he took a couple of men with him in order to get a rescue. The rescue, guys, came only after 3 months. It's amazing how, after reading this book, that's why I love this book. It's amazing how people, like the crew, never lost hope. Imagine if you are in a crew, your ship gets stranded, your captain leaves you on an island promising, I will get back, and 1 month is passing by, 2 months are passing by, 3 months are passing by, and they never lost hope. Amazing, amazing. So wow. So quite an interesting quote about this book, which I really loved. And at the beginning, when I was reading it, I was thinking, that's a bit of like, sure, I actually love that you're listening, and only if you have questions or something like that, but yes, sure. So about this quote, it was a quote at the end of the book, and when I bought myself this book and I read the quote, I was saying, that's a bunch of blabber just to make me want to read it, or but after I've read the book, the quote is so good. It says, when you finish reading this book, you will know how it's like to look at the ice that it's cracking. You hear the ice cracking around you. So the book is so well written that you actually can imagine being stranded in the Antarctic Sea. It's so well written. It's wow. So actually, that's why I really loved it when I was reading. I pictured myself there with the crew. It was amazing, amazing. So so the Endurance is sinking. The ship is sinking, and they have to survive. So this is a short list of the crew of the it's called the Imperial Trans-Antarctic Expedition of the Endurance. So this is the crew: Sir Ernest Shackleton, and this is the rest. So they had photographer, physician, sailor, steward, geologist, meteorologist. So they had quite a few people, like 28, I think, in the crew. So let's begin. First part. Exciting. Okay. So the first chapter begins with a description of the atmosphere after they had to abandon the ship. So they were very apathic. They were too tired to care anymore. So it's quite a depressing thing. It was minus 22 degrees. It was quite cold. So the members of the crew were actually terrified by the way that the ship was like. They were in a ship and they were hearing all kind of noises, and they were like, are we sinking? Are we not? Is the ship going to last? It was very hard for them, especially for Shackleton, who was like the captain, to abandon the ship. Because imagine, they were in the middle of the Antarctic Sea. So if you're abandoning quite a solid ship and you have to cross the Antarctic with lifeboats, it was very hard for them. So after they abandoned the ship, they got back to watch it as it was sinking. So not a lot of people from the crew actually participated in watching the ship going down. A lot of people from the crew were like so demoralized that they put themselves into tents, frozen, and they were like indifferent. They didn't care anymore about their destiny. They were thinking they will probably gonna die, because if you're sinking, and they were quite demoralized. It was quite a difficult crew. So while the crew was quite depressed, Shackleton was happy, the captain. I admire the qualities of this person a lot. So Shackleton was quite happy. He was Irish. Shackleton was Irish, and he was very happy that his crew was safe, although they had to abandon the ship. So yes. So actually, after Shackleton had this failure of crossing the Antarctic Sea, for 43 years nobody had the courage to even want to attempt it. So people were so impressed by the difficulty of crossing the sea and seeing like what happened to Shackleton, that like they didn't have the courage. Amazing. So yes. So it's the author describes Shackleton's personality. Shackleton was quite bold and he was quite daring. He was, after all, an Irish man and an Irish captain. So he was actually quite enthusiastic for this project. He was imagining himself to succeed. He wanted to do this. He was 40 years old, Shackleton, at the time that this expedition started, and he was quite a natural leader. So I think that the qualities of him knowing how to lead and how to resist in front of extreme pressure helped him. So one of his people from the crew said that he is the greatest leader that was ever born on this planet. Of course, that after you're being saved by your captain, you hold a great amount of respect for him. So it was said, I loved this quote. I'm trying to translate it into English from Romanian. But when you are feeling like Shackleton is so well known for his leadership qualities, that there is a quote meant especially for times of distress. So when you are in a bad situation, when it seems that you no longer have any chance, put yourself on your knees and pray for Shackleton to come and rescue. So actually I was thinking like, oh my god, you have to really put your mark on history if somebody makes a quote that says that you are the last hope in times of maximum distress. So initially the ship called Endurance had another name. It was called Polaris. So after Shackleton bought this ship, he renamed it Endurance, Perseverance. So why did he put this name on this ship? It was the favorite quote like of his family. Fortitudine vincimus. Through perseverance we shall conquer. So actually I think this was quite an emotional thing for Shackleton to put the family's quote on the ship. So yes, the author says about Wilde, another person from the crew, Wilde being the second captain. Yeah. Yes, exactly, Endurance. I was so inspired by this name. I told to myself, if I'll ever do something like I don't know, a company or something, Endurance would be such a great name. Yes, actually, funny thing, I was thinking that the name of the ship Endurance, and how a lot of hardships they had to endure, being unaware of the things that will happen to them. So they were starting all positive, we're gonna do this, and 1 year later Endurance is going down. So yeah. So the author describes Shackleton in the first chapter. So Shackleton was quite moody and he had quite a strange temper. So if he liked how a person looked, he hired him immediately. If no, he just refused him. He was taking decisions very, very fast. So the interviews, when he had interviews for hiring people for the ship, his interviews, each interview didn't last more than 5 minutes. So he was quite a fast decision maker. I think that's the secret of his leadership. He was very fast. I mean, okay, hello, what do you want? Are you qualified? Okay, I take you. No, I don't take you. By quite fast. So the ship, it describes how the ship was made. He had a big motor, a lot of oak, a lot of oak. Yes, a decisive leader. Oak and Norwegian, some Norwegian tree, and they had bibiru, bibiru wood. It's spelled like this. Quite interesting, bibiru wood. So it's a tree that grows in the Guyana and Suriname forests. Okay. So such a wood, bibiru wood, is so hard that it weighs more than iron, and it's so resistant that it can't be shaped with wood tools. So amazing, what kind of wood. So actually Shackleton bought Endurance for $67,000, but today this kind of ship would cost over $700,000, almost $1 million. So yeah. So on 17th of December 1912, Endurance was the most resistant ship of wood ever built in Norway. So it was built in Norway. So yeah, quite interesting. So it describes how he felt really nice in his first night when they started. Yes, the ice was quite difficult. The problem was that the ship, while the temperatures really were quite significantly lower, the ship had to go through massive piles of ice. So they needed a special wood for that. I think that's why they invested so much and built the ship in Norway. And yes, the ice, after I've read this, I was like, it can be so beautiful, but it can be so desolate. It's amazing, yes. So it describes, the author describes the personality of Shackleton. It describes a little bit about the crew. So yes, it describes the weather. They had light 24 hours per day. So there were a phenomenon called ice rain. It was because of the humidity from the air that frozen, and they made the scene quite fairy tale like. Yes, beautiful and destructive. So they talked about the iceberg that they cross next to, like they were crossing their Endurance was crossing through many icebergs, and they described one that was so tall. It has it had two times, it was 2 times taller than, like, how do you call that thing from the ship? Oh, I have to Google that. Yes, I have to Google the word. Let me mast. So the height of this iceberg were 2 times taller than the height of the mast of Endurance. So it was so tall. Imagine such a tall iceberg. So yes, they are describing how they tried, after the Endurance got trapped in the ice, they tried everything. They tried to cut the ice with their saws. They tried to dig slowly. Actually, when Endurance was trapped, what they managed to do during daytime, overnight it was ruined because the water kept on freezing, and it trapped slowly the ship. They had little energy, and it was quite exhausting. Yes, quite exhausting. So they were actually finding satisfaction in the fact that they tried. So they were saying, anyway, if we're gonna get stuck here for the rest of the winter, at least we have the satisfaction of knowing that we did our best to get away. So yes, quite demoralizing. Actually, they were thinking they were gonna die in the ship, but thanks to Shackleton's leadership, he managed to keep the morale of his crew quite well. I am still impressed by Shackleton's leadership. So yes, so because the ship was trapped by the ice, the ship was also moving with the ice. So because it was moving with the ice, they were like heading in a different direction. So actually this was another problem. Not only they were trapped, but the wind and the ice was making them go in a different direction. So it was a tough thing for Shackleton's leadership to assess when it's time to admit failure. It's very hard. I think it's very hard for a leader to admit failure. I think it's hard for us people to admit failure as well. So imagine being a leader and accepting that your endurance ship made in Norway, the toughest, the biggest, failed. So the author says that Shackleton was always careful not to show disappointment. He was pretending to be happy. So he didn't show his true emotions. So yeah. So actually, when Shackleton decided that it's time to abandon ship, they prepared days ahead. They established who's going to have what to do, everything. Like he put every person to work to the best of their ability. So they had dogs. The dogs were quite important for the crew. It actually made their morale go a bit up. The crew was very, very fond of their animals. So they had sleds, and with the help of the sleds and with the help of the dogs, they managed to go and travel over the ice. So yes, it was a problem with the food. They had to really rationalize their food. So yes, a description of a polar night. There is nothing more desolate than the polar night. It's like a return to the glacier era. There is no warmth, there is no life, there is no movement. Only those who got through something like that can they really appreciate what it means to live without the solar light. Actually, they ran out of supplies and they started hunting. Yeah, they started hunting, and they started hunting seals. They hunted penguins. Yeah, they actually even ate raw meat, frozen meat. Yeah, it was desolate, and yeah, they didn't. Actually, they ran out of supplies, and that's later in the book. So actually, over the times were like over the weeks, the crew started to be depressed, and then after depression it came the despair. I have a lot of delay. I'm so sorry. I don't know why I have so much delay. But is my video okay or is it lagging? Just let me know if at least the quality of the video is okay. I have a few issues with my internet provider, and so I think the delay is quite a bit, because I was reading your answer and I'm still waiting for your reply, so the delay must be quite significant. I'm so... oh, it's new, it's so far away. I think so. So no problem. I will read it when it gets to me, and we'll have a bit of a delayed thing, but I think it's okay. Yeah, so sorry. Hello, Panda. So after they had to abandon their ship, they said that the weeks were going by, and the people started to be depressed and desperate. They started to go in circle around the ship. The people, the members of the crew who started to lose their mind a little, they started to go around the ship in circles, and they had a name for this circle. They told it the walk of the crazy. So yes, so it describes the loss of their sanity a little. Some people had a crisis, like other one was thinking that other people wanted to kill him and he was trying to sleep somewhere in a more safe place of the ship before abandoning it. So yes, quite yes, quite frightening, the loss of sanity. Yes, it's quite close. New Zealand, it's close to Antarctica. So yes, the chef, the cook, was very, very important. So actually the cook was very important. He managed to cook very good for the crew, and he was never leaving the place of cooking. He was cooking all the time. So every time when a member had a birthday, he made a cake. So funny thing, one of the cakes, don't think that the chef was making actual cakes in these conditions. One of the cakes was a balloon, a frozen balloon, and over it a piece of wood covered with a tiny glaze, so they were just licking the glaze from the wood. So yeah. So actually it describes the atmosphere that the crew had. They were quite cheerly. They were trying to perform plays. They were having nights of playing around, goofing around, making jokes. Actually, the experience, although some of them were almost crazy, it we'll get there. About eating the dogs. I won't. I was about to talk about that, but I'm gonna keep it for a bit later. But you are thinking in the right direction. Okay. So they noticed quite a few things during the polar night. Aurora australis, the Antarctic equivalent of aurora borealis. So actually, it this kind of things made the crew get away from their reality, seeing such a phenomena, being there in the Antarctic with all that ice and seeing the aurora beautiful. It took them away from a very dark place. And yeah, yes, I also thought that the cake was very, very creative. It was thoughtful. I mean, it's a thing that it makes you feel almost homey, like it's your birthday, and even though you don't have a cake, but someone is making a gesture, and I think that was nice. So yeah, so it talks about one of the members of the cruise in one night pretending to be a young Spanish woman, and he so imagine a full-grown man from the crew. He got dressed in a evening dress, very short, with and he revealed his foot under the sock. He was slowly taking off his sock and performing for his crew. And he offered to the crew a Spanish dance. So actually this kind of things managed to keep them sane and managed to keep the morale of them. And Shackleton was approving this. So so yes. So actually they had guitar, they had singing, and almost half of the winter, yeah. So they are saying about the temperature dropping even more to minus 37 degrees. So yes. Hello, Bandit. We are reading a book. So yeah. So after so many days, when they were living in such poor conditions, they were happy to see the sun, because you know, like the Arctic nights, you see no sun, quite difficult. So yeah. So the summer was coming. So on 10th of September, it was quite warm, minus 17 degrees. So that was warm for them. So actually they started to get used to the temperature, to the cold temperature. So okay. So we're back to the second part now. So we're on part 2. So in part 1, the author describes Shackleton, describes the crew, describes the atmosphere. So I think this was the secret. Like Shackleton was also quite a tough commander, but in the same time, they managed to keep his crew quite happy. I mean, I was impressed. I was impressed being stranded in the middle of the Antarctic and being able to sing and laugh and perform while your ship is sinking. That's amazing. So yeah. So they managed to get away from the ship. They took everything they had to take, provisions, everything. It was very important, Shackleton said to his crew, that it was very important for them to take only what's necessary, because traveling on ice, your baggage, the weight of what you're having after you, it's quite important. So yes, so Shackleton led by examples, and when Shackleton said to his crew to abandon everything that's not for survival, he as well took some gold coins and like a metal thing in which he had his cigarettes, also from gold, and he threw them away on the snow in front of his crew. That's the power of a leader. So actually his gesture was full of drama, and after the crew saw the gesture of the captain, they followed. So I think that was the secret of Shackleton's leadership. He managed to lead by example. He just did it. While they were on the ice with their sleds and with their dogs, Shackleton was quite worried for the ice not to crack underneath them. So yes. So actually Shackleton managed to make his crew forget about the endurance and the fact that they had to abandon it, and the fact that they are stranded in the middle of nowhere. And they started the crew to be quite optimistic, and they were considered themselves being in a vacation. So let's talk about the power of the human mind. I mean, from desperation to the circle of the mads, now they were thinking, oh, we are in a vacation. I was like, oh my god, that's so impressive as a leader, how to shape the mind of your crew. Amazing. So yes, now they it has been a week since they abandoned the ship. So they were thinking that, oh, a week ago we were sleeping in warm beds, we were having a table where we could eat, and now they were living in tents in sleeping bags from reindeer fur or from wool, or they were sleeping on bare ice or on planks of wood. They were sitting in the snow, they were eating from aluminium bowls. So people were eating with their hands. So yes, the author says that they started to adapt. They were that was the secret of their survival. They adapted. They didn't let their mind just sit in one place. They didn't let the thinking of endurance to define them. I think that's quite important. I think that this is where a leader really is appreciated, in the fact that failing for a leader could define you or could re-strengthen you. And by this, Shackleton's leadership was amazing. He could have been demoralized, he could have been depressed, but no, they adapted. Okay, we failed, so here we go, let's go. For one moment they weren't thinking like, let's give up. Never. So Shackleton, yeah. So Shackleton had a couple of feuds, but not feuds like I don't know, a conflict, but with his second commander, Frank Hurley. He was quite they were like two very strong personalities, and Shackleton knew that he did not want to make an enemy from his second commander. So this was also very important as a leader, how to know to deal with difficult people. So Shackleton's fear was not to lose control over the situations. So because of this fear, he had a sense of duty that was making him really overthink things. So him and Hurley, so Shackleton applied the principle of keep your friends closer and your enemies even closer. So he was having a difficult time in communicating with Frank Hurley. Guess what he did? He established that in his tent he will sleep with Hurley. So he will put his biggest enemy sleeping in the tent with him, so he could supervise him even close. So it's like, I have like the worst enemy, what can I do? I think I'm gonna keep him even closer. Quite brilliant. So it was difficult. It was a difficult crew. It was there were a lot of men, 28 men, stranded, alone. It was difficult. So what made people be so optimistic, you would wonder? So at the base of the optimism was the belief, the full belief, that the situation in which they were it was only temporary. They were always thinking that the things were about to get better soon. So yes, I do have an immense respect for this person. I mean, after I read this book, I was like, whew, amazed. I mean, I think the thing that I appreciate the most about Shackleton was his control over his ego. Ego is quite a tough enemy for ourselves. It's very, very hard to control ego, and it's very hard to control it in a normal situation, under extreme pressure, under failure, under enemies, to control your ego and maintain your leadership. That's quite difficult. It was life and death, and yeah. And keeping himself calm. A lot of people have nervous breakdown from little things. And Shackleton in the Antarctic, with the possibility of death in his face, he was controlling his nerves. That's amazing self-control. I respect self-control a lot. So actually they are starting to tell more about the fact that they were running out of food. So actually they were doing little things from flour. They were eating dog food. Yes. So they were mixing dog food into their flour and they were eating it. Okay. So actually they started hunting, looking for seals. Looking for seals. It was quite bloody. So yeah. At the beginning they were like the descriptions, it's like horrendous. It's like they had to hunt the seal and they were eating every part of the seal, everything, including the brain, everything. It was like disgusting, but people were so desperate to survive that they no longer had shame. So of course that if you have to survive and if you have to eat, you will get down on hunting. So they were talking about the fact that they miss their wives, their girlfriends, and a lot of people were sleeping at 8:30 in the evening because the light of day was almost 16 hours now. So yeah, they were never removed their underwear. Never. Never. Okay, so a lot of people from the crew didn't want to wash intentionally because they were thinking that if they let dirt accumulate, the skin would be more protected against the cold. So that was like a thing for him, for the people to realize. So I think, yeah, it's quite okay. So yes, it's quite in a way funny, but in a way quite, I don't know, I don't want to imagine like the smell from that camp and everything, but they didn't care because it was ice, they were dirty, they no longer cared about personal hygiene, they just wanted to go to sleep, to have something to eat, and to wake up to a better day, and that's all. So actually, after they realized they lost endurance, the reaction of the people was almost sentimental, after losing an old friend. So yes, they were actually still thinking about the endurance and about the fact that, well, it was a closed chapter. So in the first night after endurance sank, Shackleton authorized serving at dinner a quite special menu. What do you think it was? It was very, very special. It was like the cherry on the cake. It was fish paste with biscuits. This was like a complete feast for the crew. So yeah. So they started to really appreciate the thing that they had everything they needed. They had food, they could hunt, they could have a place to sleep, and they were like thinking, oh, this is such a simple life. You have no worries, you're not missing any train, you don't have to answer to letters, you don't have to wear a suit. So the crew, can you see how shifting your perception is shifting your reality? Amazing. So they actually were thinking that it's actually quite a good life. Hello, Last Bonja, I'm from Romania. Hello, Lorenzo. I'm having quite a delay, so yeah, I'm talking about this book. It's quite interesting. So actually, it was saying that Shackleton wanted to have the same treatment. He was wearing the same clothes, he was eating the same food. So, but he was mentally distancing. So that was interesting. Ooh. So everybody had something to do. So Shackleton put every person to have something to do, so it would keep their mind occupied. It was quite very important, because if you're stranding on the Antarctic and you just sit and you do nothing, your mind starts going crazy. So Shackleton made sure that every person from the crew had a specific task to do. So yeah. So Shackleton is writing in his diary that he was worried, not for the cold, not for the ice, not for the sea. The only thing that made Shackleton worried was for his crew not to be demoralized. And yeah, so for Christmas, everybody was free to eat whatever they wanted for dinner and for the second day. So yeah, so small little incentives. So that was the secret, like small little incentives, small, just take it slow and take it day by day. So yeah, so a lot of people are being described here, their personality, their crew, everything. So we get to the third part. See, this book is thick. Like, look, I barely scratched the surface. So okay. So Shackleton evaluated the quantity of food that they had. He had a lot of optimism. He had a lot of self-esteem. He was a bit of an arrogant. Do you think hexagon? No, actually I've read this quite fast. I think in a week I was ready, because it's so captivating that you wanna know more. It's like I wasn't able to leave it out of my hands. I think less than a week I've read it. It's so good. Just try it. I'm so sorry I don't have the English version. This is my Romanian one, so so yeah, it's a lot of description. It's a lot. I'm just reading you from everything that I managed to like. Every time I read, I make signs of what I like, but it's a lot of description of the atmosphere. So it describes how people really love their dogs, really love their dogs. So, but for moving forward, they weren't able to take their dogs. It was quite a bad news for the crew, but Shackleton really really made an order to have the dogs being shot. So yeah, so actually this was quite demoralizing for the crew. So the crew had to just make those doggies disappear. So yeah, it describes like they were a bit demoralized, a bit more about this. So they kept a couple of dogs. They didn't cut them all, but a lot of dogs had to be, yes, because they wanted to, they rather feed themselves rather than feeding themselves and the dogs. So business-wise, survival-wise, it was the good decision. Emotionally, it was quite heartbreaking. So yeah, quite sad, but hello. So people started to get hungry. It was quite difficult to hunt. So one of the people from the crew started to smoke a lot. Yes, that's why this book is so good. Yes, it would break your heart, but imagine that these people had to do it and still survive and still maintain their sanity the next day. That's why this book is so inspiring. It shows it shows the power of the human mind, the power, like the people can go through so many things and be so powerful, and it's amazing. So yes. Okay, so they were eating penguin meat. So they managed to hunt quite a lot of penguins. They managed to, in a day, 300. They were like 28 men, 300 penguins. They were being slaughtered like in a factory, like bam, bam, bam. So yeah, they were making provisions. So actually, that's why they were hunting. They were thinking, what if something happens and we don't have the food? So when they had the opportunity to hunt, they hunted like every little penguin, like bam, you're going to be steak. But it's survival. They had to survive. So they didn't eat their dogs. They shot them, but they definitely ate a lot of penguins. So on Sundays they were served penguin and ham. So they were sad that their ham supplies were finishing. So yeah. The only thing that was making people go a little bit easier through this was writing in their diaries. So that's why the author managed to write such a good book, because he read the diaries of the people that were stranded here, because they managed to be alive, and they managed to be alive with their diaries. So yeah. So they are depressed, they are describing, they are seeing the same white sky, they are seeing the same things. They started to be a bit depressed. So yeah. So after they were eating, they were sitting in their sleeping bags just in order to not to freeze to death. So it was quite cold. So a lot of people were feeling the lack of food as actual physical pain. So the temperatures were minus 23 degrees in the night. So yes. So they were actually also like eating everything. They were like the bone of the penguin. They were like eating and cleaning it from the last bit of meat. They were like very careful with that. So they were shooting the other dogs as well, because they wanted to eat the food of the dogs rather than feeding the dogs. So that's why this book is quite a bit shocking, because it shows how in a survival situation you really have to think clearly, rationally, and your affection for the dogs can be a thing that, if Shackleton wouldn't have done this, maybe his crew wouldn't have survived feeding so many dogs. Is consuming, and being out of food, they were like, okay, we're gonna kill the dogs and eat their food. So yeah. So they were having a rough time also in hunting. There were days like they couldn't hunt one seal, and there were days like they managed to do it. So they weren't having a constant supply of food, and that was quite stressful as well. So it was from day to day. So the lunch, when the food situation started to become really bad, really bad, the lunch was 1 biscuit and 3 cubes of sugar. That's it. And on later on in the evening was penguin stew, or yeah, so they weren't producing water through melting the ice. So if they wanted to drink water, they were taking a recipient with snow and they hold it to their chest until the snow started to melt. So it was so desperate, so desperate, and it was so cold, and people managed to be so desperate that a lot of people from the crew were taking pieces of meat and of fat from the supplies, and they tried to eat them raw and frozen, and they were so hungry, and they did that behind Shackleton's back. So when Shackleton found out, he put all the provisions right next to his tent so he could supervise them. So yeah. So it's quite difficult. It's quite difficult to see what does it really mean to be stranded. What does it really mean to go? Yeah. Yes. I was like exactly like a story compared to a person who has done anything close to it. Exactly. So when you are thinking like your life is hard, or you're hungry, or oh no, you haven't been stranded in Antarctica like Shackleton's crew. Your life is good. These people had it hard. These people like hard. Actually, there is one story that really touched me on my emotional cord, about one of the guys from the crew that started an argument with another guy. So there were two guys starting an argument. So actually, just because they were arguing, one of the guys was holding a mug. It was holding a mug with a bit of milk. They had supplies of milk, of like powder milk, and they were arguing, and I don't know what happened. He lost balance and he spilled his milk. So after he spilled his milk, he was so depressed, and he started crying. And the other guy that had a fight with him and saw that, he gave him his milk, because it was so demoralizing to see how a little spill of the entire dinner, a little milk, made a whole man cry. It was so shocking. So yes, they stopped arguing, and they ate whatever they had to eat. So yeah, spilling a drop of milk, that's your entire meal, can put a man into tears. So yeah. Okay, so another thing, it describes how they were practically sitting, their camp was on ice. So in one day, yes, they made up after that. Amazing. Well, yeah. I think that even your worst enemy, if it sees you crying into tears, can no longer beat you while you're down. Oh God, my internet just. Am I still here, guys? It shows me that I have no internet now. What's going on? I'm so frustrated. Is it back? I wonder. Am I still here? Let me know, guys. I don't want to talk about this book and still not be here. Okay. Okay. I have a problem with my internet. It's a really bad connection, and I'm so sorry. So now it's okay. So yeah. I think it's the first time when actually internet drops me in the middle of a stream. Bad internet. My internet, it just cut off. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's happening. I was thinking that my stream is going well now, because a lot of people shouldn't be streaming now because it's Easter, but bad internet. Bad. Okay, so now you can hear me. So I didn't continue. So yeah, so actually I was talking about the fact that people were oh, I think I have issues with my internet, like in the evening when I try to watch something on YouTube, or it keeps on like doing that little thing, like it's still like my internet from my phone, and it's working better than the internet that I have here. Maybe I should be streaming with the internet from my phone. But why am I complaining? I haven't been in Antarctica stranded, so thank you for having internet by default. Okay. Thank you, guys. Thank you for waiting for me, and I apologize. It's just not in my power, the power of my internet. So let's get back to endurance. So the crew was quite sensitive to the sounds of the ice. They were paranoid. They were thinking, oh my god, the ice is going to crack. They were having bad dreams about sleeping and ice cracking under their tents and them drowning to death. They were imagine every night sleeping with an appalling thought of always thinking, hearing noises. Oh god. So yes, so in one day ice cracked right under the place where the tent of Shackleton was. So at this point people were gathering their things and they were heading in another direction. Shackleton ordered a different direction and they had to pack camp and to go. So the day after they packed it and go, they noticed that the place where Shackleton's tent was, the ice cracked in two. So if they would have remained there another day, can you imagine? Yeah. So the place where they stayed and they hunt seals and they shot their dogs, they called it the patience camp. So they abandoned the patience camp and they started to sail on their saving boats. So yeah. So actually they stayed on this camp in order to hunt, to make provisions, in order to have food on their boats when they will go to the sea. So Shackleton had a strategy. They just didn't abandon ship and stayed in one place, or they just didn't abandon ship and started sailing. He had things figured out. So yeah, amazing. So they started it says a story where the ice cracked when they were on this patients camp, and actually it happened with one of the people being in a tent, and he almost drowned, but they saved him. So it actually, that freaky thing actually happened. So yeah, so that person was not upset. Imagine, after they saved that guy who almost drowned, he was upset that he lost his tobacco. That was the only thing he was upset about. Like, hello, be grateful you're still alive. Like, screw that tobacco. But guys and their tobacco, you can't take tobacco from a guy. Okay. So they took their boats. They started sailing. They did not only started sailing, they done it for 36 hours continuously. Shackleton was afraid of the weather changing suddenly, so he was thinking, let's sail as fast as we can in order to make sure we keep on track. So he put a lot of pressure on his crew, and they were exhausted. Their hands were having like sore things, and difficult. So actually, here it describes. Funny, I wanted to make the book closer to you just so I could feel the atmosphere. Oh God, I'm such a blondie. But in this thing, it described a really impressive thing. It described how people were standing in their boats on their feet, and they were tense and aware of the fact that the waves of the sea could have drowned them, crushed them. They were feeling so small. Imagine they were sitting in the boat, and they just put themselves on standing, and they were like looking around, seeing the sea, the waves. They were thinking, we are so small, we could be crushed in any moment. They had like this awe and this amazement of the insignificance of their presence in Antarctica. Quite overwhelming. Amazing description. So yes, I do fear about the ocean as well. I think there is an interesting thing about the ocean. I think that we are fascinated, but in the same time it scares us. I think people can experience two kind of feelings. They can experience amazement, like think about being in a yacht with somebody that you like, and you can sail the sea and watch a sunset, and so nice. But you can also be stranded. And it can be, I think the ocean and the sea, it can be beauty, it can be fierce. So I was reading in a National Geographic magazine about a woman that managed to go with her husband and her kids around the globe on a yacht 8 times. 8 times. I don't know where. Oh, I don't think this one. I wonder is this one. I can't remember how she was called. Could it be this one? I so hate when I can't remember names. It bugs me. It bugs me so much. Why can't I remember? I'll look it up and tell it to you. God. I wonder. No, not that one. Is this one? Sorry guys for the interruption, but I'm like, yes, I found it. This is the lady. Electa Exie Johnson. This is the lady. Google her. She traveled around the globe 7 times with her husband Irving and with her kids. I knew it. I'll find it. Yeah. Okay. Sorry guys. Sorry. So let's get back to the ocean. So yeah, so that woman managed to go around the globe like so many times with her husband, and well, it's fascinating. Am I still streaming? Oh my god. I hope my internet is alright and I'm still streaming. Oh god. But anyway, I think that yeah, it's quite I don't know, once in a lifetime kind of experience to be done, to go on the ocean. I don't know. Definitely not being stranded, but like going on the ocean, yeah. So this was quite interesting in endurance, that people were like in awe of the ocean and they were scared, but in the same time, quote, they couldn't deny the greatness of the view that was unveiling in front of their eyes. So yeah. Oh yeah. So it also describes, okay, thank you Adam. It also describes the members of the crew. I'm almost at the half of the book. So I think it's worth doing. So if you have the possibility to go around the world post-COVID, do that. Regret nothing, but take safety measures. I mean, come on. No, but we won't be having Shackleton next to us. So it describes the mentality of the crew that were trying to make a joke on their situation. They stopped thinking about the desperate situation they were in. So they stopped caring. So yeah. So the next island was Deception Island. They wanted to reach Deception Island because this island, Deception Island, was 100 miles from the point they were in. But on Deception Island there was like some things from an old volcano that would made them a great shelter, and the island was quite visited by the sea hunters, so they had the chance to be discovered. So they really wanted to go on Deception Island. Let me see on the map, where could that Deception Island be, if it is in the map. Funny thing, Deception Island, Shetland. Oh, okay. So this is like, okay, this is like they're going on the boats here. This is where like they were on a boat, and Deception Island was here. So quite far away, guys. Quite, it's like from here to here. So funny thing to put your hopes into Deception Island. But yeah, so ta-da. So the surface of the sea was forming, so the sea was freezing. So because the sea was freezing, the ice formed little areas like rubber. They were calling them ice pancakes. So they made fun of what they saw around them, like the ice is going so cold, everything is freezing around us. Oh, look, an ice pancake. Oh. Like So now this is the tough part, guys. Now they were on the boats, they were on the sea, they can no longer go back because they are surrounded by sea. No more ice, no more. So 3 small ships, boats with 28 people in a last and almost impossible attempt to get away with life. So that night Shackleton was really quite demoralized himself. So a lot of people started to talk badly to each other. They were swearing the sea, the boat, the water, the wind. They were cursing between themselves. They were just like praying and begged for them to escape from that inferno, from that moist, frozen inferno. So yeah, it's a very powerful, very tough atmosphere. The atmosphere, you could have cut the tension with a knife. People were so tense, people were so scared, so tired, exhausted. It's the description of the book as it takes you there, it takes you and puts you in the middle of the ice with the people, with Shackleton, with everything. Brilliantly descriptions are brilliant. So yeah, it was quite rough on the boat because they were constantly getting wet. Their clothes were wet, everything were wet, and it was cold ice water. They were soaking, it was miserable, guys, miserable. Oh yeah. So as the times were passing by, the boats were connected. 2 of the boats, wheels and card, were connected with a rope, and by the times the hours were passing by, on the rope there was an ice formation that was becoming thicker and thicker. The lives of the people from Wales are depending on the rope. If that rope was to be broken, the boat was to be swollen by the sea and covered by the waves. Can you imagine these people stranded in the middle of nowhere, their life depending on a tiny little boat and a tiny piece of string? and still be able to keep hope that you're going to survive. Amazing. So their water supplies finished. They were really thirsty. So they were actually impossible to swallow because they were having seasickness. So they were hungry. They were so hungry and so thirsty, but their neck hurt so much. It's all or nothing. Exactly. It was such an extreme survival story. It impressed me just because I don't know if you can get it worse than that. I cannot imagine. So actually, after the storm passed and they started to sail and to sail, the sun appeared. It was more than a sunrise. It was like the sun have flooded their souls, re-bringing life into the people. So yeah, they were close to their destination, and the fact how much the light makes a sunrise, it brought them hope. It brought them, okay, we're gonna do this. So just like a small detail, like a sunrise, guys. The sunrise that we have in the morning, but we don't look at it how the people from Shackleton's crew look at it. So yeah, even Shackleton looked tired. His voice was almost lost because of the exhaustion. Oh, so Shackleton, people, food. How were their food? They managed to eat biscuits, a couple of nuts. They were very thirsty, but they couldn't hoard so much water on their tiny boats. So Shackleton suggested they would try to swallow. This is kind of gross. They tried to swallow raw seal meat, so they could also swallow the blood from the meat, so they could not be thirsty anymore. So people were so hungry, they were actually devouring those little pieces of meat. When Shackleton saw this, he realized that the supplies weren't going to last, and he was terrified. So he made an order for this meat, for the raw frozen meat, to be given when the thirst was so bad that it clouded their minds. So it was so bad, not only being stranded, not only being in such a difficult situation, but losing your mind, being hungry, being thirsty, out of hope. They haven't slept for 80 hours. So they kept on sailing, continuously afraid of the weather. So they were thinking they were so close. So what kept them, guys? What kept them sailing 80 hours and not sleeping? So remember, they weren't sleeping 30 hours. They weren't sleeping until now, 80 hours in. And they were so convinced they had their destination close that it made them power. Hello Linux, it's going well. I am actually at the half book. I'm describing the expedition and the sailing of the Shackleton's crew. So actually, this crew, after it sailed almost 80 hours without sleeping on the Antarctic Sea. So yeah, actually it's a very good book. I totally recommend it. It's about a crew that got stranded on the Antarctic Sea, and their ship, they had to abandon them, and they had to cross the Antarctica with only 3 saving boats, and they managed to survive. It's about a survival story, yeah. And they had to go through so many things: hunger, starvation, thirst. And now I was saying about the fact that they were sailing for 80 continuous hours without sleeping in order to get to their destination. So they were thirsty, they were hungry, it was quite difficult. So yeah, quite a survival situation right there. So yeah. So actually they were getting close to the Elephant Island, which was quite close to the final destination for them. So actually they managed to go to the destination. Yes, exactly, good point, John, exactly. But in Antarctica, this is like the hardcore version. It's like, if you read this, I was telling the guys from my chat that it took me less than a week to read this, because once you start reading it, it's so powerful, and you can visualize yourself there. You cannot take your hands off of it. It's so good. I was so impressed. That's why and Ernest Shackleton was the leader of this expedition, and he has, if you want to see a great leader and leadership skills in action under pressure, this is your book. Okay, so actually after they managed to sail for 80 hours straight, they managed to get on this island. So yeah, so they were actually finally on land. They were on a really tiny piece of land, but after the first time in 497 days, they were feeling land under their feet. So it took them more than a year since their ship sank, to their ice traveling, to everything, to find a piece of land to put their feet on. Imagine. So they were like amazed. So this is the 5th part. So they managed to get on the island. Now they were still stranded. Nobody knew nothing about them. How could they survive and still though escape from this thing? So yeah, after they managed to get on land on this deserted island, the author describes how a lot of people from the crew, just because they haven't felt land under their feet for over a year, they were shaking. They had an emotional reaction to reaching land. They were uncontrollably shaking, and they started to just whisper words, and they had such a great joy in finally putting their feet on land, finally. So Shackleton, as a captain, was so happy. They cooked their meat. They started to sleep. Um, so they were very, very happy. The first day of them on land, they were happy to hear the penguins. They were happy to hear the sea. They were happy to listen to the music of the sea. The same sea that made them scared when they had to put their tents on the ice before going into the expedition. So, but now being on land, they enjoyed the sound of the sea. But when they were on a boat, they were terrified. Can you see the difference? Amazing. So, but problem on this island, guys. They couldn't stay on this island a lot. Why? The cliffs from this little piece of land had some things on them. They had some signs of big waves left by the storms. That was revealing to Shackleton of the fact that this tiny piece of earth, of land, was actually in the middle of a current that would bring the sea waves towards that piece of land. So they could only stay there while the weather was good and while the flux of the sea was good. So they couldn't stay there. So the joy of reaching land only lasted a day. So it's like you find a good piece of land, but you imagine, like, you see, like, oh my god, but I can't stay here, because if they would have stayed there, they would have probably died. So yes, Shackleton decided after this, so it's quite an adventure. It's like, it's never safe. We found land, but we cannot stay, and So Shackleton immediately ordered for a crew to search for a safer camp place. So 5 people and a boat started to search for that. So yeah, quite a bummer. I was quite, yes, I was so bummed myself, Adam, when I was like, oh my god, but finally reaching land after almost 2 years, and you can't. Yeah, I was so I was feeling for these guys. I was like, I cannot believe they were tired and exhausted, but they managed to be happy at least one tiny day. So actually this elephant island was actually a deception. So yeah, so the elephant island was bad. So it was very rocky. The land was pretty deserted. There was no rocks, nothing to protect the people. So it was horrible. So actually on 20th of April, Shackleton finally announced officially that he wanted to take a crew from 5 people and to go to the island of southern Georgia to come back with help. So yeah, so actually they moved on this very inhospitable island, Elephant Island, that had, imagine, it was like a beach, and there were very powerful waves on the sea, and they had no choice. They had to move their camp in this very inhospitable place and wait for help. So actually a lot of people from the crew were pretty scared of the idea that Shackleton was about to leave and leave them on that very bad island. Winter was coming. Winter is coming. So pretty rough on the guys, pretty rough. So the wind was so powerful, just to imagine, the wind was so powerful that it was lifting pieces of ice from the island, like massive pieces of ice were being lifted by the wind. So actually getting out from the tent was quite dangerous. At a certain point, the wind grabbed a 10-gallon cooking pot from the improvised kitchen. So they were left without their cooking things because of this wind. That powerful was the wind, but they had nothing to shelter them from the wind. So yeah, so they were preparing the little boat for Shackleton and his 5 people to go and rescue them. So actually, before leaving, Shackleton made a letter. So Shackleton made a letter that he left a testament. I was so impressed by this, guys. So actually, after all the expedition, all the failures, the crew established themselves on Elephant Island, and there was nobody there. No, if they were to stay on that island, they would have died. So the natural decision was for Shackleton to go and to take 5 people and to go to the southern Georgia island and to look for help. But it was quite desolate for the other people to stay on this island. So Shackleton had the strength to write a letter as a testament in case he does not return. Oh, how many people, how many of us would have the courage to write our own testament? Like, okay, so he left Frank Hurley, his second commander, to take charge in case he wasn't to return. He committed to make sure that all people were about to be paid for this expedition, no matter what. Okay, and his binocular left it to Frank Hurley. So that's all he had. And yeah. So yeah. So he left a letter, and on 23rd of April 1916, Elephant Island. So yeah, there was a tension in the air. The both groups, the ones that were going to search for rescue and the ones that stayed, knew that it was a very big possibility for them to not see each other anymore, and that reality struck them quite hard. Whew. So 22 people were left on that very unhospitable island. So yeah, exactly, yeah. Getting paid, I don't think people cared anymore about getting paid. Exactly, I think people cared about getting to civilization. I would be like, yeah, I don't need the money anymore, just please give me my bed, my water, my... Yes, exactly. Like, whew, tough. So 22 people were left stranded on this island, and actually the first thing they were thinking was we were wondering how could we get over this a whole month. This was the shortest period of time we could have hoped to be rescued. It was the most optimistic version. So they were confident. They were thinking it will be a month. That's why they were they were quite optimistic. Little did they knew. So yeah. So they described the conditions, the weather. Their socks would be freezing. A lot of this island was horrible. A lot of wind, nothing to protect them. The snow was going in their tents. It was horrible conditions. What helped them? Again, power of your mind over matter. People were planning imaginary meals that they wanted to enjoy once going home. So I cannot imagine making such a delightful list of all the food you'd like to eat when you are absolutely hungry, but that made them optimistic. That made them want to go and hope and not lose hope, because they were thinking, I'm about to go home and I'm gonna be look, we want to be fed, quote, I'm trying to translate it the best that I can, quote, we want to be fed with a big wooden spoon like Korean babies. I was like, what? And we want to be tapped slightly on the belly with the back of the spoon, so we could be able to have more food than we are supposed to be eating. We want to be stuffed. We want to be stuffed. We want to be stuffed with sugar, pudding, black cherries, apples, milk, honey, bread and butter until we die. We would shoot the one that would offer meat. So they wanted to be stuffed like little babies. So of course they no longer wanted meat. Of course, who would want meat anymore after you've been eating frozen meat with blood? Just to, but like, and they made a list, yes, exactly. As a child, I think they went to their child personality, the inner child, because we all have like an inner look at me, I'm like a child now, I'm talking about my favorite book, and I'm like, so I think exactly, they became like a child, and they were thinking, and they had a list, every member, like this is the member and this is the list of the foods. So each member made a list. Just a couple of the things: apple pudding, marmalade pudding, pig steak, dumplings with meat, with apples, pudding, a lot of pudding. I'm so hungry now. So a lot of pudding. So actually man kept their morale by daydreaming. This is daydreaming. This is the power of the mind. Again, one reason why I really love this book. It shows that our mind is so powerful. It shows that even if we are in desperate, horrible circumstances, maybe at the edge of poverty, maybe at the edge of sanity, maybe at the edge of strength, the human mind is so powerful, and it really saves you. Like, I think the favorite thing I would eat when I would get back home, a chocolate cake with nuts, you know, like those caramelized nuts on top of the cake. And pancakes. I would eat pancakes with strawberry filling. Yum 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 yum. So yeah, a lot of like, what would be yours? What would you eat, guys? Good question, Adam. Like, if you would be like these guys, what would be the thing that you'd love to eat when you would imaginarily go back from such an expedition? I want to hear what the guys would eat. I said my thing. Oh, and brownies, like a brownie cake with a chocolate syrup. Yeah. I'll be waiting because I know I have a bit of delay, and I'll be waiting to read the answers in the chat. Oh, I feel like such a when I'm talking about food, I feel like so yeah. Sweets. Oh, your mom's cooking. Okay. Yeah. It's always good. Like mom or grandmom or their cooking is it's like food for your soul. It's not food for the tummy. It's food for your soul. And yeah, I think a lot of the guys, actually it mentions that a lot of the guys were thinking about their wives, their families, their mothers, and I think a lot of them actually went a bucket of coffee. Oh, eggs benedict. Oh, those are good. A bucket of coffee. Yeah, coffee. Irish coffee. Oh, I would love to drink an Irish coffee, and with a muffin, with a chocolate muffin. No more, guys, no more. Let's go back to these poor people. So the man, we're almost at the end. So the men were maintaining their morale, daydreaming. So daydreaming helped them immensely. So on 25th of May, so Shackleton left in April to get help. On 25th of May, 1 month and a day, Frank Hurley, which was the second captain left on the island to take care of the crew, was writing something like this: bad weather, a lot of snow, our environment is the most desolate and the most inhospitable landscape that you can imagine. Now we are all resigned, and we are expected to face winter here. So from ecstasy to agony again. So they were thinking, they were making scenarios, why they are not coming back, what did it happen, was it the ice, was it the storm? They were never thinking for one moment that Shackleton would have died or that the ship would have sank, the little boat. They were not prepared mentally to think about that possible outcome. I think it would have demolished them morally. So yeah. Oh, funny thing. Another thing that helped them maintain morale was the gastronomic club. They were making a gastronomic club. It was the club of sugar. So, what was happening in the sugar club? In the sugar club, each member was giving away one of his 3 sugar cubes per day. That was their ration per day, 3 cubes of sugar. And they were giving this away in order to enjoy a feast at every 6 or 7 days. So yeah, so actually you are trading 3 cubes of sugar for the possibility in the future, in 7 days, to have a little feast to attend to. So yeah, Can you see how the human mind becomes so resourceful? The resourcefulness of the human mind. So yeah. Oh, another description of frostbites. So actually, one of the guys had problems at one foot, and unfortunately he had frostbites, and the doctor from the crew, he started to remove them, and every finger was falling with a metal sound in the empty box below in 55 minutes. In 55 minutes, all the toe fingers of that guy were removed. Ouch. The description of the metal sound of a finger falling into a can, very descriptive. Yes, they were keeping hope alive, but in the same time, yes. So another activity that made them feel happy were the artistic program. They invented an artistic program from 26. Hello, memory. Hello. I'm talking about the book. Very nice book. Totally recommend it to you. So actually, they celebrated 22 of June, the austral solstice of winter. They had pudding from 23 biscuits, cans, powder milk. They had a feast. So yeah, they had a banjo, they were singing, they were trying to make the best of their time there. So, oh, look what the guys drank. They made a drink from water, ginger, sugar, and ethanol from the cooking lamps. So yeah, that was the special drink on Elephant Island. So yeah. So they were describing how difficult it was to be stranded on this island, that they had moments when their mind was quite empty, and they were staring at the sea and thinking about nothing. They were getting drunk, yeah. What can you do? These people got stranded on an island, and they were expecting for rescue. So I wouldn't blame them getting drunk, but unfortunately they didn't have enough supplies to get drunk from the get-go. So it's even more sad. So yeah. So actually a couple of them were going to the sea on the beach, trying to collect little rocks. So yeah, they tried to find a replacement for the tobacco. They ran out of tobacco. So what did guys, look what they did in order to find a replacement for tobacco. Oh god, I was like, you gotta be so desperate to smoke if you do this. So they removed the isolating shell of rubber from the boots, and they started to smoke it. They were smoking the rubber from their boots as tobacco. What? I was like, oh my god, that's yeah. They started, Adam, you're brilliant. They started to explore the sea, and they started to smoke seaweed. Good for you. Yes, they started to smoke seaweed. They tried moss, they tried a lot of things, but after all, they started to smoke seaweed. Actually, I think seaweed is I think smoking seaweed. I think smoking seaweed is better than smoking tobacco. Huh? Could you? Could you now could you like roll up seaweed and smoke it? How does that work? I'm not a smoker, so I don't know. Would it work? So another like funny story about a guy from the crew that developed an abscess, and that abscess was developed on one of his butt cheeks, and it was the size of a football ball. Oh my god. So the doctor of the crew had to remove it. Oh god. So they were pretty happy. They said that even though they are living in a dirty shelter with a very remote space, they were all living in the same tent. They were eating from the same pot, and they were sitting next to this guy who had a massive abscess on his butt. And they managed. Can you imagine? There are people who are sitting, look now with quarantine, there are people who are sitting in an apartment or in a house, and they are two people or a couple, and they cannot stand each other, and they hate each other, but they have food, water, shelter, money. And these people who had it worse could be happy and could agree and could be happy. That's the power of getting along. That's the power of wanting to get along. This is a lesson. This book is a lesson for all the people that we now have it good. Like, I don't. If I would have been stranded on an island, I don't know. I like to think I would have been tough enough to resist it, but in the same time, when I'm reading this book, I'm like, whew, I don't know if I could chew raw seal meat. I don't know. So yeah. So the diary. So every day, as you can see, this is in Romanian, but still, they noted every day. This is like 4 of August, 5 of August, 6 August, 7, every day, and they were like noting the thoughts of several guys, like James, Harley, Macklin. This was the doctor. So yeah, I don't know. So they were eating a lot of seaweed. I think yes. I think Adam, I don't know, but I think there are 2 ways. I think you could have a special bond. You know what's the interesting thing, guys? I was thinking, like, a little detour from the book. I was thinking, do you think that a lot of things, like couples or families, don't last just because people know they have a place to go? In this, maybe that's what made them last. They know, okay, I cannot go upset and go. Where would I go? In the middle of the Antarctic? So they had to stick together. They had to work on their bond. They had to get along because there was no other option. But today, with modern couples, technology, like, okay, I'm not getting along, I go to my mommy, or you know. So see, I think that's the difference. I think people could have a special bond going through difficult things, but only if they are committed that is their only choice. Because if they're thinking, oh, I'm having an alternative, I'll like walk away. So see the difference? It's like a different layer. So yeah, but I think that's imaginary too. I think, okay, you always have an option, but is going away from difficult situations and always thinking you have an option, doesn't that make you quite shallow? And you can't always run away back to mommy, or you can't always say, okay, I don't get along with you, I'll try with the next one. At one certain point you'll have to stick it out. You have to stick it out, and it's so hard. And that's why I love this book. It's so hard to find people who will stick it out, no matter if it's the Antarctica, no, just in life in general, the importance of not giving up. So that's a short parenthesis. So let's get back to the book, sixth part. So I think, yeah, that's quite important to not give up, never give up. That's why I loved Shackleton. He never gave up. He never left his crew. He was a hustler. So the sixth part. So there are a few quotes from the diaries of the people. Yeah. We definitely agree on so many things, Adam. That's good. So they were describing this island. He was thinking, now the author goes back to Shackleton. So he describes Shackleton was something like, he was having second thoughts after he left his crew. He was having second thoughts. He was thinking of, he said to another member of his saving crew, he was thinking, what if he didn't made the right decision in selecting who is left with who. He was afraid for conflict not to happen in the camp. I think it's very important for a leader to know his crew and to know who should be with who in order for the interaction to be well. So he was worried. He was very, very worried. He was afraid that maybe, without a captain there, the crew could easily, like, people need leaders, people need a firm guidance. So I think that's another thing that I appreciate about Shackleton. He knew his crew very well. He knew who to take with him and who to be left in the camp. Very, very important decision, very important. Okay, so the next one. So Shackleton with his saving crew started to move to southern Georgia Island to get rescue, and they had to go through the Drake Cross. It is the most feared portion from the globe, and it's quite dangerous, a lot of wind. So a nice description. It says that in the rare moments when the sun was shining, the waves were a cobalt blue that gave impression of an infinite how do you call it, a deepness of the sea. So cobalt blue sea, and so yeah, a lot of waves. So it was quite dangerous to go on that Drake through that Drake place because of the waves. They could have been swollen by the waves. So yeah, actually another problem was the fact that because of the humidity, these people were sailing constantly in their boats. Problem, the navigation maps were getting wet. So the people were very, very careful to be aware of the fact, like to always supervise the navigation maps, otherwise they would have been lost. They were very careful to keep those maps dry as much as possible. So yeah, whew, 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 whew. I was like rooting for the guys. I was rooting like, oh come on, don't get that maps wet, oh come on, like ah. So yeah, so it describes how a third of the road was already made by Shackleton, so they were pretty close. So yeah, oh, the sleeping bags started to rotten because of the humidity. Quite difficult. They were sleeping in the boat, sailing in the boat. They were doing everything in the boat. I say salute to those sleeping bags. They have lasted so much. So out of the blue, in the sky, here comes an albatross, a bird. So the guys were like envious of that little bird. They were feeling like the bird, their mind was so off, they were feeling like the bird is mocking them. Like they were looking at the bird and they were thinking, this bird is mocking us, look at her, how he's flying, and we're sitting here in our boat being wet, and this albatross is mocking us. And I was like, oh my god, it's a bird. But their mind was so they were thinking that that albatross could have get to their destination much faster than they could, and that thought made them so mad. It's like a bird could outrun you in your attempt to survive. That's so funny, so frustrating, so true. But the bird, yeah, bird. Okay. So for 13 days they went through this Drake place, and they managed to get across. They were feeling anxious, they were feeling doubtful. They saw cormorants, birds. So birds equals land. So they were feeling more and more hopeful because they knew that cormorants are rarely going further than 15 miles from the dry land. So dry land wasn't far away. Guys, they're almost there. So yeah, they saw land. They were like they had to double check. They were like, oh, we can see land, but they were like, maybe we're having hallucinations, or maybe they had to double check it's really a land. So they were having relief, they were having like so yes, quite a difficult thing. But they couldn't go on that piece of land because it was quite farther away than it appeared. So they had to pursue a bit more. So they went ahead to the Gulf of King Haakon. That was a better choice. And on 10th of May 1916, they were finally on the island where they have left 522 days before. They started to put themselves on their knees and drink the water from that piece of land. So yes, amazing. So this piece of island that the oh my god, we're almost through this piece of island. So Shackleton and his saving crew managed to get on the island, on that island, and there was a cave on the island that was a good shelter for them. So yeah, but it wasn't over. It wasn't over because people had to cross the island. So the island wasn't, it was the island, but where they wanted to get was over the island, so they had to cross the island. It's not over. I was like rooting, like, yes, you did it. But after that, oh no, you have to cross it now, come on, can you get it any more difficult? Yeah. So they had to cross the island. So Shackleton discussed, and he wanted to leave after help. So Shackleton decided that he will be the one attempting to go to Husvik, to the east coast of this island. So yeah. So him and with another crew member, so yeah. So yeah. So it was Shackleton, Worsley and Crean. So these three guys went to cross the island. Yes, another obstacle, Adam. Like in life, you imagine in life, oh, now it's done, now all the hardships are done, I'm gonna enjoy life, and then boom, another thing. It never ends. So they connected between themselves ropes, just because the wind was so strong, and they had to make sure that the wind doesn't fly one of them. So can you imagine what a strong wind must have been? Oh my god. Okay. So it was a very abrupt, very abrupt hill, and covered with snow, and actually they realized at the half of the road that is so abrupt, it's impossible to just walk away through it, and at one certain point they had to just let themselves slide like on a ski thing. It was quite a crazy solution from Shackleton, but it was the only one left. So horrible. Three per total, there were 28 in this rescue mission. It was Shackleton and with another two. So in a total of 28 people. So yeah, I don't know what's worse. It's worse either way. The expedition in itself was bad. So I don't know. I think it's worse to have more people, a lot more things to manage. So they managed to cross this island, this hill. It was almost, they had to go over a hill. So yeah, and they heard a siren. They heard a siren at 7 At 7 they heard a siren. It was the sound of the siren from a coast. It was the sound of civilized world. Guys, I cannot imagine what it means to hear a siren after so much time. So they had another biscuit and another can of food. So after 3 hours they managed to end up to a valley. So they heard the siren, but they were still far away. Oh, poor them. So slowly they got down from the valley. So these guys were crossing a very abrupt hill to cross the island. So slowly they were like climbing, going down on the hill. And now they were thinking now about their looks. They were thinking now, oh my god, these people are going to see us and we look so dirty. And one of the members from the crew tried to cover the holes from the pants, and the hair was shoulder length. They had cluttered beard. Their beards were full with seal grease and with salt from the seawater. And yes, so after that they managed to go to the to the port. But interesting fact, when they managed to get in the port, the guy Matthias Anderson was the leader of the team from there. He never met Shackleton. He only heard that the Endurance got sank in the Weddell Sea. So all the people from the port heard about Endurance, and they imagined that all the people died there and everything. So actually after they came there and they've met Shackleton said that he wanted to talk with Anton Anderson, and the people from there told him that Anton Anderson wasn't working anymore and he was replaced by Thoralf Sorle. So when Sorle was a person that knew Shackleton before this. So when Sorle met Shackleton, he asked him, "Who the are you?" And Shackleton said, "My name is Shackleton." And it was a complete moment of silence. And Sorle turned around and he started crying. So I got goosebumps. So that was the moment when they managed to get into the port, and the coincidence of finding someone who previously known you and thought you were dead, and to tell him, "I am Shackleton," and again a man crying. That's really, really powerful. So the expedition, guys, the expedition that Shackleton made to go to southern Georgia to find rescue, it was only done once after that. No, Shackleton not only saved his crew, not only did so many things, but he was the first one who attempted to cross southern Georgia island. It was never done before. Can you imagine, as a leader, you have to save your crew, and not only that you have to save your crew, you have to do it in an expedition that nobody done it ever before, and to expect to succeed. Oh my god. So yeah. So actually the route that Shackleton took, do you remember I told you he had to go through the middle of the island? Like through the middle island? Nobody ever did that ever. Even the ones that tried 40 years later, they didn't took the route Shackleton took in order to get through that island. It was never done. Is it sheer luck, or is it experience, or is it just Shackleton? What a man. Exactly. I was like, what? I was impressed by the courage. The courage. You have to have a lot of courage. Courage, madness. Unbelievable. Like, there are like movies done after this, a TV series. This man is a legend. So yes, they were surprised. Everybody was surprised that these three people managed to go through this island with only a rope, connected with ropes between each other. Mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. People were very respectful of Shackleton. People are. So yeah, after this, they tried for almost 3 months to reach their crew. It was very difficult to reach back. Yes, determination to reach back to their crew, because there was an ice layer surrounding the Elephant Island, and it was practically impossible to get through that ice. So Shackleton was worried, because it was almost 3 months and a half since he left his crew there, and he was afraid that the crew was about to lose hope. So Shackleton tried 3 months, and for more than 3 months, to save his crew. He was so determined. He asked for the British government to send him a ship capable to cross the ice. Almost 4 months have passed, and the people stranded on the island waiting for the rescue, they started to believe that Shackleton didn't make it. So actually, after a couple of days more, Shackleton managed to get to his crew, and when people from his crew saw him, they started to open a package of biscuits. They started to laugh like madmen. Supposedly they started to uncontrollably laugh like madmen. So after they saw Shackleton, each of those people started to jump in the boat with no regret, leaving behind dozens of personal objects which 1 hour before they considered them to be vital. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, the end. Amazing. You think someone is going to get sued? No. That would be horrible. No. So guys, a couple of pictures. A couple of pictures, guys. This is the man. The man. Sir Ernest Shackleton. This Irish brave man. Look at him. Simple guy. A simple guy. This is the guy, the second commander. This is the guy who was left on the island to take care of the crew. This is Frank Wilde. Okay, so the photographer of the expedition, these are real pictures of the ship being stranded. Real pictures. The expedition had a photographer. This is how Endurance looked like being stranded. This was the ship. Look the eyes, look at that. I find it so amazing they had a photographer. This is like the reality, like this is real. So this photography was made by Harley in the winter of 1915 using 20 lamps of signaling in order to put light on the ship. The ghost ship. So yeah. So this is one I wonder too. This is one of the toast. This is like the place where the guys made a lot of meetings, and they drank rum and they remembered about their wives, their girlfriends. Look, this was like the atmosphere. They were having a good time. Yeah. Yes, the ice pushed it up. Yeah, the ice pushed up the... Imagine the power of the ice. So this is a football game. Look, this is the ship abandoned, and this is them playing football. Imagine. This is so nice. This is history right here. How can you play football here after your ship got stranded here? How can you do that? Amazing. So this is a picture from one of the spectacles done by the crew. So one of those evenings of having fun with Spanish dance. So they were wearing all kind of suits. This is the banjo. This is the Spanish lady. I mean the guy. Look at him. He looks like a sexy lady. Sexy mama. Ooh, español. So, these are the dogs. These are the dogs. Oh, fluffy little doggy. I'm happy they didn't eat their dogs. I'm quite happy. Which picture? Silver? Like which picture? The one before? Like the football one, or ow. I got numb in here. The dogs, yeah, look. This is the dog. Look. This is how they were preparing the dogs with the sleds. I'm happy. I was saying that I'm happy they didn't eat their dogs. They just so yeah, cute dogs. I don't know what breed. Hello, hello, hello. I'm showing pictures from this very, very nice book. I talked all about it. I totally recommend it to you. Guys, tell him how nice is this book. Now I was showing like pictures from the book, and it's an expedition. It's people stranded on an island, and it's real. It's not fiction. It really happened, and it's quite inspiring. I totally recommend it to you. Totally. Please read this. So this is a picture of the crew from Endurance in front of the ship. So they made a picture of themselves in front of the ship. So as you can see, the stranded ship is here and the crew is here. So yeah, quite an idea to make a picture in front of the of a sinking ship. Yeah, it's a true that I love story. I love fiction, but I love more books inspired from true stories. So this is a picture of a member sitting on a block of ice with the ship being far away. Look at how much ice it is in the Antarctica. I mean, it was. So this is the guy sitting on a pile of ice, and this is the stranded ship. So can you see guys? Yes, actually I think I described the book pretty well, but I'm telling you, I've read it with my heart cringing. So they also had the cat. They had to abandon the cat too. These are the puppies. This is the pipe smoking tobacco. This is a few kitty. So guys, do you remember when I told you a quote from the back of the book where it said that when you finish reading this book you can almost feel the ice cracking beneath you, and you can feel how it's like to be on cracking ice? So a picture with cracking ice next to the ship. So this is a picture when the ice started cracking around the ship. So when I talked about the ice cracking and including under the tents on which people made shelter, this is how it looked like. Can you imagine sleeping in a tent on top of the ice and have this happen to you? Not pleasant. So yeah. So when they tried to save Endurance, they tried to save their ship which got stranded. This is what they tried. Pulling it. They were trying to pull it from the ice. Look. Can you like yeah, that was a great picture with the ice. But look at this. Can you imagine, like, these people are hungry, these people are tired, and they're trying to release their ship. It's amazing. Look. Great effort. Great effort. This was a great this is a picture of the ship which is actually sinking. So this is the confirmation of the fact that going to the ship was no longer an option. And I find the picture to be good. It's a good picture. Look, I find it quite interesting how the dogs are sitting here, and can you see, like, it's sinking? It already sank here. Can you see? On 24th of October 1915, endurance no longer endured. Yeah. Yes, the ice cracked. So yeah, this is like their saving boats here. This is their tents. Look at that. So look how guys looked because of the ice and because of the temperature. Their face was freezing, literally. See? It was so cold that everything froze around them. Everything. Wink. Could you endure this? I don't know if I could endure. But I think if we would be in that situation, we would find a way. I would find a way. I would. I would put my hair like this, or I don't know, do something. So this is an image with them taking the skin from the penguins. They had like a cooking stove, improvised. I hope you can see this well. I hope you do. So this was their meal. Cute penguins, unfortunately. But yeah, cute penguins going to be steak. But well, you have to survive. So yeah, look. Okay, this is the best picture. This is the saving ship coming to Elephant Island, and this is the picture. And you can see the picture, and in the back of the picture you can see the ship. I'm gonna hold it a bit longer here just in case I'm lagging with my very good internet. So good. Look, this is the picture when they are being saved. And this is the ship that saved him. Shackleton came on this ship to save his crew. Can you see the landscape? Can you see the sea? The ice? Look how desolate it looks. Being stranded on a place like this. I don't know. So this is like the crew. A final picture of the crew. Now they are here, they are all cleaned up and washed. Thanks God. Actually guys, now I remember one thing. I remembered, I'm so sorry, I watched a documentary about this, and I remember that a couple of people from this crew, after, yeah, it's a powerful image, Adam, after they managed to get back home, they pursued to go in another expeditions later on. And I'm not sure, I don't want to disinform you. I have to look for that documentary. Let me Google it. I don't know if I can find it. And they had stupid death. They managed to die in a stupid way, a lot of people from this crew, which annoyed me terribly, because you managed to survive with endurance and you die in a stupid way. So I'm not sure if I can, let me Google, but I hope it won't slow down my internet speed. I watched a documentary on YouTube about this, and let me Google it, but if I find it, okay. If not, when I'm gonna have the next stream, I will definitely link you up. Shackleton documentary. Which was it? Not this one. Oh, is it this one? I found some, but I think this might be one. Can I give you a link here? Wait. I'll put a link here. It's from YouTube, so it has nothing. I just pasted and copied. I hope I can do that. This is, I think, one of the, and it has part 1 and a part 2. I will do my research a bit better, but I think this is the one. I watched a lot of documentaries about this, because after I finished reading this book, I was so admiring of Shackleton that I had to find out more. So it has part 1 and part 2, but just watch it and watch more. You'll find a lot of, let me close this up because it's definitely gonna slower my speed, and you're gonna find out a lot of infos. So yeah, let me get a bit closer. So this is it, guys. This is the end of this book. I now see I've been streaming for so long and I can't even tell when time has passed by. So now, as you can see, the picture from the book is one of the pictures taken from the by the photographer of the expedition. Silver, Google, like on YouTube, you can just Google, oh, let me open, it was Shackleton in incredible voyage, or just Google in YouTube Shackleton endurance, and you'll find a lot of documentaries about it. So just Google, you'll find on YouTube there are a lot of free documentaries and you can really find out a lot. I felt inspired. I don't know about you guys, but this my lips have dried because I've been talking so much. This book really inspired me. I think that now a lot of people are confusing leadership with money, with status, with no, a true leader is this. I personally prefer to appreciate the qualities and the character rather than the status, and I think that impressed me the most about Shackleton, about his leadership, about how he was as a person. He didn't abandon his crew. He was very modest. He didn't get rich after this. He didn't. A lot of people would take advantage of this to make a lot of money, to go fame, and he didn't. And I hold a great amount of respect for this kind of people. We need more people like Shackleton. We need more character. We need more determination. Yeah, yeah. Yes, a leader is someone who inspires, and I think we need people who inspire us, not just Instagram babes and, I don't know, unapproachable sexy men. Or we need intellectual inspiration. We need more. And this Shackleton experience is really powerful, and I hope that it inspires other people, and to appreciate what you have, to realize how important it is to control your mind, to control your ego, to control your emotions, to be hopeful, to never give up. Yeah, I only have good things to say about this book. I loved it. For the moment, nothing replaced it yet, because I really take a lot of inspiration from this book. It really inspired me a lot. And well, yeah, wonderful book, wonderful. So guys, I don't know if I told you Happy Easter, but in case I didn't, I am telling you now, Happy Easter, wherever you are. So yeah, I'll be getting back on streaming. I think on Tuesday I'm gonna be painting. I thought about starting to paint also on paper. And did I tell you? No, I didn't tell you. I'll tell you now. I discovered a site. It's called Teespring. I don't know if you heard about it. It's something like print on demand. And I uploaded some of my art there, and I can have it put it on t-shirts, and I can have it put it on hoodies, and I opened an online store with my art being put on clothes. I think I linked it in my Twitch profile. I'm actually very excited about it, because I think it's quite exciting for me to see that I can put my art on clothing, and it looks so good. So good it looks. Make sure to check it out, and I'd love to get some feedback, like what kind of art could I put on a t-shirt, and check it out and give me feedback. But I'm just starting it. It's like I uploaded some of my pointillist drawings, and it looks great. God, I wonder how did I started to do fashion design earlier, but it's never too late. It's a bit more complicated because I'm a new seller and everything, but my art on clothes looks good. So yeah guys, this is it. I hope you loved it. I hope that I made your day a little bit better, and yeah, have a happy Easter. Don't eat too many eggs. Don't eat the rabbits. And I don't know, the next book I'll be talking about, I think it's something quite similar. It's also called Endurance. And it's also called Endurance. It's in English, so it will be a bit easier for me. And it's yes. So Adam, you can find the link in my Twitch profile, or anyway, if you go to teespring.com and type Creative Mary T, but you'll find it. I put it in my profile. Check it out. I was so stoked, so stoked about it. Also, or just let me Google them. I just loved the idea of my art on clothing. I was like, it's like I was discovering like the world. Yeah, this is it. Just check it out. I think I almost cannot believe it's my art. I mean, it looks so nice. So the next book I'll be talking about, I'm not gonna reveal too much, but it's this. It's interesting thing. It's also called Endurance. Dun, dun. So this was again a very nice reading, and I'll be having lots and lots of fun talking about it. So yeah, funny thing. So I'm happy that you stayed with me for so long. It really was nice to talk about my favorite book. And I'll see you in the next stream. I had a great time. Bye to all of you, and thank you. And sorry for my lag.